What is going on? This is the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Brad. We got Clean Hits Kenny and special guest and friend of the podcast, Brogan Houston from the Deseret News. Brogan, how's it going?
It's going. I'm so ready for everything to kick back off again. It always feels like it's been too long since the last time I came on. So, yeah, I'm just ready for the season to start and for hockey chat to keep going.
Yeah, I think last time we had you on was kind of the end of the season and going into the off season, and seeing your face again makes it really feel like we're right around the corner of everything starting up again. And in fact, the step one of getting to the first puck drop of the season has already happened, which is the rookie camp, which kind of just wrapped up, yesterday?
A couple days ago, yeah.
Couple days ago, so technically after the last game, which was on Saturday afternoon. So we want to kind of dig into rookie camp, some of your thoughts and takeaways from that, some of these storylines going into training camp and the regular season. And I think the big takeaway from rookie camp was, let's not read too much into the box scores here, because the Utah Mammoth unfortunately had a little bit of a goalie issue, and that was definitely seen on Saturday's afternoon game with a 8-1 loss to Vegas's prospect pool, which this is a team that's been trading first round picks and their prospects since they became a team, seemingly, and faced, one of the most stacked prospect pools in the league. And the Mammoth, the young Mammoth, got they got spanked.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think a lot of people don't really realize where a lot of these guys come from. You have to be able to ice a full roster for these games. And in Utah's case, they didn't have any goalies available. They do have a few good goalie prospects, but nobody that plays in the NCAA or Europe is available for this tournament because the European season has already started. And this makes NCAA players ineligible to play in the NCAA because we all know how strict the NCAA is with all their little rules. So that takes out Michael Rabel, that takes out Melker Thelin, that takes out Ivan Kachkachenko, Carson Musser. I think was that everybody that was at the development camp this year?
I believe
all four goalies. So maybe I'm missing one, but anyway, they didn't have any of their own goalie prospects available. So that's where you just go out and say, hey, who wants to come to camp? And so they went out and got a bunch of guys, and none of them, really showed that they were worth their salt. And so, it was no surprise that they all got released from their tryout contracts right away after camp. And, and it wasn't just the goaltending. There was a lot that, the TJ Ginlas and the Cole Baudouins and all those guys that Daniil Boots, that they could have done probably a little bit better and all the way up and down the lineup. But when your goaltending is leaking, you really feel it.
Yeah. I actually got an invite to be a goaltender for the camp too. So I
heard Skeet Heatley did too, didn't he?
Yeah.
It would have been the two of you.
The one standout actually. But and it's another point to be made here is that none of these guys have ever played with each other. This is a I mean, they did the development camp and all that, but this is a competitive game against other players that they've never seen before, right? A bunch of I don't want to say nobodies because they're definitely doing better than I, but a lot of these guys are never going to touch NHL surfaces again, right? And so it is hard to say, yeah, we got Mammoth hockey on, those jerseys look incredible, everything looks good, you're going to get fired up about it, and then all of a sudden we lose by a touchdown, which they're just trying to get in the NFL spirit. It's been a competitive week there too, but it's mostly what you're looking for is the standout players in this, and just seeing how TJ Ginla is looking after his pretty invasive surgery, and then our first real look at Daniil Boot and Simashev. So out of those players, which ones stood out the most to you and passed the eye test for you?
Definitely Dmitry Simashev. I think he's on an NHL trajectory for sure. We'll see if that is out of training camp or later on in the season or next season. Who knows on the timeline, but I think he's getting there for sure. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see him play at least NHL games this year.
Mhm.
I do think that Daniil Boot still looks a little raw. I think I've probably said it 15 times now that he's got the package. He just doesn't necessarily have the fine tuning. So, you stand next to him at these interviews and you're looking way up. Like he's a giraffe out there, a mammoth, maybe I should say.
Yeah.
But, I posted a few videos of him, taking one-timers after practice, for example, and he's connecting on a quarter of them maybe. And you see him skating, and his skating just is not nearly at the level of Simashev or a lot of these other guys, Iginla or Baudouin, like he's below all of these guys on some of those pretty basic hard skills. And so those are coachable things. You can't teach height, but you can teach skating, and you can teach shooting and stick handling and whatnot. But I don't know. I just think he's probably not quite there yet at the NHL level.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in the KHL, the Russian league, the ice surfaces is the traditional European ice surface, which is much wider. And if you've watched Daniil Boot highlights or any videos of him playing, his skating looks phenomenal in that setting. And I noticed on the game on Saturday I was watching, seems like adjusting to the smaller North American ice surfaces is affecting that a little bit. His ability to kind of go east-west at a dime doesn't seem to be quite there. He had that really beautiful wraparound attempt. But it does seem like the reduced space is affecting his ability to kind of roam around. It seems like he has to adjust a little bit to that. And that was kind of the biggest takeaway I had from Boots playing time and what I saw on Saturday. Another standout, at least to me, and I noticed you wrote about him as well in one of your recent articles about the rookie camp. And if you haven't seen Brogan's work for the Deseret News, be sure to go check that out and make sure you're following him on Twitter. His handle is Houston_Brogan. And he's got a link in his bio to all of his articles. Great coverage as always. But Artyom Duda, this is one of those players who's been very elusive for the fan base ever since he was drafted back in 2020. He was a player that not too many fans were aware of at the time when he was drafted. He was definitely a big who when I saw them announce it. And then as we heard and read more about the player, the profile seemed really interesting. This is a player who didn't take one penalty minute in his draft year, but was playing in lower leagues in the KHL and the Russian league. So it was hard to get video on him. Then he kind of had this weird trajectory where he tried to come over to NCAA, but it didn't really work out because of visa issues. And he made it down to Tucson last season, but man, I thought he had a really calming presence and seemed to do all the little things right. He seems like he could be kind of a coach's dream.
Yeah, I think we kind of look over him because he doesn't have that first round pick tag on him. But he was like, 7 picks after Maverick Lamoureux? I think it was 22, wasn't it? He was like 7 picks after. That's barely outside of the first round. So this is a guy that really should be included with all these other guys. And yeah, he showed why he was that high of a pick in this camp this time around, and also in Tucson last year. I think he was close to close to half a point per game, somewhere around 30 points in 70 games, more or less. And that's as a rookie defenseman. Like that's not nothing. So as far as NHL caliber, maybe not. We haven't seen him at that level yet. But if they're in a pinch and they need somebody to call up, maybe he's competing for one of those spots. I think it's between him and Lamoureux and Zuber and Simashev. Like I think those are the guys that are waiting to take that next step and push into the NHL. And it's a race between all of them because there's already a lot of defensemen there. And we don't even talk about Scott Perunovich, but they just signed him, and he's a legitimate NHL defenseman too. And so
Right.
And he's probably going to start the year in Tucson, I would think, depending on training camp. But and then Nick DeSimone, like we'll see if he sticks. He was really good last year from what I saw. And so there is that logjam. But if they need somebody to come in and fill a spot, I think Duda's in there, and I think all those other guys are too.
Yeah. To your point, he had 29 points in 70 games in his first year in professional hockey. One stat that stands out to me, and people don't like this stat very much, but the plus minus, he was a plus 15 as well. So for a young defenseman playing his first year of pro hockey in the AHL, that's something that can be promising. And every time that we hear Bill Armstrong talk about our prospects, he's sure to mention Duda almost every time.
Yeah.
And so they see something in this guy, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm hoping he's more of a step above the Vladislav Kolyachonok, where he has all this tremendous ceiling, but a really high floor as well, where you're just like, or I'm sorry, maybe a non-sustainable floor. You just feel that at this point, he's a real boom or bust prospect, and Duda seems to be the safer option out of that. So I'm excited to see what can be made of him. So you touched on the goaltending situation. I wanted to ask a little bit about that, just because I'm a little jaded, and I know that the NCAA prospects could not participate in this, but there's also been just a lot of silence around our number one goaltending prospect, and that's Michael Ravel. We've seen multiple times in years past where someone will play out their entire collegiate career and then exercise their right to sign with an NHL team other than the one that drafted them. And to his defense, I think on draft night, he did mention that he was going to play the full 4 years. But still, it's scary. Do you have any sense, or is there any maybe worry from your point of view that we may actually lose a guy that's been pretty highly touted?
So as far as, conversations that I've had, I don't think I can, say one way or the other, he will stay, he will not. I don't know that for sure. What I do know is that where else in the league would be a better fit for him? They have a succession plan in place that, Veggie's contract is up, right around the time that he would probably be emerging from the AHL. Because remember, goalies don't break into the league very often at 20 years old. Every now and then it happens. Usually they're about 25, 26 by the time they become real reliable NHL goalies. So by the time he's 25, 26, that'll be right around the end of Vejmelka's contract there. And he'll be able to kind of take that starting position, ideally. The other thing is he's got a Czech goaltending partner. And now he's got 2 Czech goaltending partners. Whether Vitek Vanacek stays or not is another question. But, that's not nothing. Like, you have a built-in mentor that speaks your language. Czech is a pretty hard language, from English, like to adjust to. So he's got somebody there to kind of show him the ropes and do it in his own language and his own culture and that kind of stuff. And I don't know that there's anywhere in the league that would provide that same kind of succession plan if you were to go elsewhere. So, and just the fact that we all know Utah has a really good trajectory right now. And so it's probably an enticing thing to be able to step in as the number one goalie right when the team starts taking off, right? So those are my thoughts. Like I said, that's not really based on conversations with him. He did confirm in conversations with us that he did reject a contract from Utah this year. But I think that's more of just the appeal to stay in the NCAA. Continue developing. The AHL is a very, very hard league. Like, it's arguably the second or third best in the league, or in the world, depending on where you rank the European leagues. But it's one of the best hockey leagues in the world. And if you aren't ready for the AHL, it can really hurt a young goalie like that. And so if he, stays in the NCAA, dominates a little bit, and then maybe he comes to the AHL next year, I think that's a viable plan. And I don't think he's, dumb for doing that. Like, I think that's an intelligent route to take.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next year around this time will be the sweat zone if he is not signed. But
oh, am I not supposed to be sweating? Because I'm kind of sweating right now. Speaking of, the AHL being a hard league to transition to, I know you kind of touched on it with Daniil Boot. And in fairness to him, the guy takes up a third of the ice surface now, and so he's probably struggling a little bit to move to the smaller rink. But it's fun to talk about all the players that were standouts. But is there somebody that maybe, I don't want to say that you were disappointed in, or you feel like they need a little bit more time to cook, other than the Daniil Boots, or any other players that you feel that could benefit from a couple more years of development?
Yeah, I think Maverick Lamoureux was pretty underwhelming in this tournament, and it is what it is. Like, it was only 2 games, and he hadn't played in 5 months, so take it with a grain of salt. So he'll have the chance to come into training camp and maybe, correct that narrative a little bit. We'll see if he does or not, and that ball is completely in his court. He just wasn't quite there positionally. He's always looked a little awkward skating and shooting and that kind of thing. He always, I grew up a Canucks fan, and he's always reminded me of Tyler Myers, just kind of that lanky stride, maybe a little like a little wobbly, that kind of thing, but this massive human being that can impose his will physically when he chooses to. So there's still obviously a ton of potential there. Don't put too much into 2 games, but he is the only player on that roster that has played in the NHL, so he should be among the best players on that team, and it just wasn't there this time around.
Yeah, interesting, and it really says a lot about the depth at defense, because I'll be completely honest here. I kind of forgot about Perunovic.
Yeah.
and I think he was a former first round prospect for St.
second
Louis
round
Blues.
pick.
Second round pick.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Hobie Baker.
Yeah. And I mean, when you're thinking of this roster, even if none of the rookie defensemen and Simashev, Duda, or even Lamoureux make the team, we'd have DeSimone and Perunovic as kind of that 7th and 8th defenseman without even considering the young guns. So this could be by design. Maybe the plan is to let Mav have that full season in the AHL, not bouncing around, really concentrate on staying healthy, which has been an issue of his entire career. I mean, it's easy to forget that even after he got his cup of coffee in the NHL, where he had some really good games, but obviously he's still raw. Obviously, vet players were able to exploit his size and really kind of force him to draw penalties. But he kind of ended that stint injured and didn't get to just go back down to Tucson and kind of pick up where he left off or anything. He missed time. So maybe it will be for the better to just kind of let them cook a little bit. We just had Lee Stempniak, Director of Player Development, on the show. Make sure to check out that episode if you haven't already. It gives you some great insight of kind of what to look for during rookie and training camp. But we asked him if there's an issue with overbaking prospects, and he said absolutely not. So maybe this is the plan. Just let them all kind of simmer and cook in the AHL and really dominate. And that they aren't the first ones that get called up, and it's the DeSimones and Perunoviches that come up for the inevitable injuries that will happen. But I'm sure the team will want to get some looks on these guys, but I'm not as convinced as I was back in June that one of these spots is up for grabs.
Yeah, no, I agree. The phrase that a lot of these hockey development guys throw around, and I haven't watched the Lee Stempniak episode, so forgive me, I don't know if Lee said this, but a lot of these guys love this phrase that is something along the lines of you can't spend too much time in the AHL. Basically, like, there's no such thing as spending too much time in the AHL. There is such thing as going to the NHL too early. So with a guy like Mav, like, maybe it is 3 or 4 years that he maybe needs to spend in Tucson before he really realizes what it takes to play in that top line or top role in the NHL kind of thing. Maybe not, but it's just one of those things.
Yeah. I think the thing that teams are scared of now and it's not something that's so much of an issue as it used to be, is that you're gonna piss the player off. And but I mean, we have their rights, right? And if the training staff and the professional development staff see that this person could benefit from, just, hey, I know that you were drafted X amount of years ago. You see Logan Cooley, who was drafted the same draft. He's playing top line minutes. We chose you this high because we believed in you. We traded up to get that pick, and we believed in you. So, it's one of those things. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And credit to him, he's eating 5,000 calories a day. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know if he looks bigger to you when you see him without the padding, but
and so here's the thing is, when he first said that, he, with his Quebec accent, he said 15 pounds that he had gained. We thought he said 50. And I'm looking up and down. I'm like, where did that 50 pounds go?
Right. It's like, I don't want to know.
I can probably see 15.
Yeah.
50 surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, I really, really want this prospect to work out. We're still running thin a little bit on the right-handed defenseman. And he's a first round pedigree player. There's a lot of teams that obviously the fans were a little shocked to see him go that high, but there was a lot of teams that had reported interest in him just because he's got all the tools. Now he's got to organize the tools in the toolbox a little bit, and learning that in playing top line minutes, and like to your point, the second most competitive league in the world. That's going to be beneficial. So I wouldn't at all be disappointed or shocked to see him play a full year in Tucson. And let's hope he can stay healthy, because he's a really exciting player in the locker room and on the ice, like we saw a little glimpse of last year.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and training camp now is about to kick off. As you said, Brogan's kind of first day of school tomorrow, right? With interviews and everybody kind of coming in, and players are flying back into town. Definitely some excitement there. Dylan Gunther goes out and hits a hole-in-one on the golf course. So, he's probably going to win the Rocket Richard this year. But let's go into some training camp, kind of what you need to know, some takeaways, some thoughts on that. And I think as far as storylines go, and I know we were just talking about overcooking the prospects, and maybe this is all by design, but I'd imagine there is maybe one spot in the forward group and one spot on defense that a young player could come and just take because of their training camp performance. If I had to put money on it as a betting man, I would lean into the defense here as being the more available spot, with prospects that have a better chance of making it. But is that kind of the feeling you have too? Or do you think this is a roster that's pretty well set right now with even its current depth? I mean, guys like Michael Carcone and Liam O'Brien kind of being regular NHL players that are going to prevent a forward from making it day one. And guys like Ian Cole and Oli Mata and Nate Schmidt kind of locking down the kind of more like bottom three roles on the defense.
Yeah, I think there are, whether you like it or not, and no matter what management says, there are certain contracts that have been signed that pretty much guarantee players spots unless something really drastic happens, right? So Oli Mata has a 3x3 contract. He's going to be in the NHL. Nate Schmidt, same thing. Ian Cole, 3x1. He's going to be in the NHL. These guys aren't going to get pushed out unless they do something really stupid, or all of a sudden they forget how to play hockey, or all of a sudden they decide to switch to the other-handed stick. Like that's how drastic it would have to be for these guys to not make the league this year. And so I think that the defense is a lot more set than the forward group, although I do think the defense has the player that could probably push for a spot, and I think that's Simashev. So if they believe that Simashev is ready, then they make room for him, and maybe that's by trading somebody or waiving somebody, whatever you have to do. But I think a lot of those guys are guaranteed to be in the NHL this year. On the forward end, I don't know that Michael Carcone or Liam O'Brien are the types of guys that you prioritize in the lineup over some of these young prospects. But somebody still has to come in and take that spot. So, I would think that, Yamamoto will still have his hat in the ring, even though he's not one of these young prospects. And aside from him, like, is Cole Baudouin ready? Maybe not. We'll see. TJ Ginla, I think, is another one that could maybe impress enough to get one of those spots. But from what I saw in rookie camp, I don't think that he's there yet. Daniil Boot, like we've said, I don't think Caleb Desnoyers is even, close health-wise, never mind skill-wise. So he's going back, I'm sure, to Moncton. And then, maybe a couple depth guys down the roster chart and that kind of thing. But to answer your question, I don't think that there is a forward that will push one of those guys out unless it's maybe Daniil Boot.
Right.
And then on defense, Simashev, they will make room for him if they need to, but he still has to go and prove it.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, once the injury bug hits, which, again, it's inevitable, I think that's when maybe these players will start to get their call-ups.
You saw that with Gunther.
Yes.
You saw that with Gunther, right? I mean, Gunther left them no choice. Stepped in. I think it was an injury to Schmaltz, and Gunther put up a stat clip that was pretty undeniable. And he still went back. Went back, and but it just, like Brad said, it's unfortunately inevitable. And so if we do see Simashev, I agree with you. It's probably going to be the most likely scenario is that it's going to be due to injury.
Yeah. And it's tough because you almost want to see them earlier than later. So you almost want like a Simashev to break the roster and make it play game one and then play maybe for a week or two and then get sent down. But this is a very different team now. This isn't a team that's building anymore. This is a team that's pushing for a playoff spot. So every game counts, every win counts. So
right.
Are you also willing to potentially have a player who may be a little bit of a liability as they adjust to the NHL out there game one? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting. And I think all eyes on some of these players at camp to see if they do that. I mean, if this team is kind of struggling to score and Tej puts up a bunch of goals during training camp and those preseason games, is he the one who forces himself on the team so we have more depth scoring? Right. I think those are kind of whoever can make this team the best is going to have that opportunity. But if that's still Ian Cole, it's still Ian Cole.
Right. And if you remember back to Gunther's days, like when he stepped into the lineup, correct me if I'm wrong, I know you guys are more longstanding Arizona Coyotes guys. He stepped into a top or a middle six role, right? Like he was not playing 5 minutes a night or 8 minutes a night on the bottom line. Like he filled in on Schmaltz's spot, wasn't it? Like around there at least. And because of that, he was in good opportunities to score with, playing with good players that could put the puck on his stick, and that's what he needed. So if you put TJ Ginley into the lineup or Cole Baudouin or whoever it is, are you putting him fourth line left wing? Like
no.
Playing 8 to 10 minutes a night, that's not really going to do much for him. It would be better for him to go back to Kelowna, play on the first line, light it up, score 60 or 70 goals. Like that's probably what he's pushing for this year. I think that's way better than playing fourth line minutes in the NHL and kind of stalling in your development.
Yeah. And unfortunately, back to the Arizona Coyotes and Phoenix Coyotes days, we saw that a lot. I mean, we saw prospects rushed into the lineup, and unfortunately, most of those guys are no longer playing, or they had their career cut short just due to them being rushed. The NHL is not a development league. This is probably the most pivotal year. This franchise, I'm including the Coyotes history, in a very, very long time. This is a team that's set up to make a playoff run. And if I'm a betting man, which hanging out with Brad, I'm not really. That's been proven. I'm just not good at it. But if I'm a betting man, I think that this team does see the postseason this year, and this is and Bill Armstrong is not a conventional GM. So to Brad's point, whoever even though the roster looks set on paper, right? Like what you said, if unless these guys switch their handedness, they're not playing, or they're not going anywhere from the NHL roster.
Mm-hmm.
You could see something that really turns their head in training camp, and all of a sudden, Bill Armstrong shipping off a guy for whatever. Maybe another backup goaltender, make it real interesting. I'm just kidding. But you could see him say, "Hey, you know what? I'm pushing all my chips to the center of the table, and I believe in this guy, and he's gonna give us the best opportunity to win." So I agree with you though, Brogan. I think that the roster's pretty much set, and we've got a lot of options when it comes to the injury forefront, which we didn't really have last year.
Yeah.
So it's this depth and competition is a good thing, even though it's stressful to try to plug all the holes right now. This is exactly the problem that you want to have, is too many players and too few spots. So I think it's going to be exciting. And I think the first couple months of this year is going to be filled with activity. And so, yeah, but I'm excited for training camp to start. I think that's when things start to feel really real. Speaking of goaltending, we have a little bit of a three-headed monster. We haven't had that in a while. Have you had a chance to talk to Connor Ingram at all? I know obviously the transition out of the assistance program is obviously pretty tough. Do you have any sense of what the team's plan is going in with three goalies?
So yeah, I think that we will have a better sense of that in the next week or so, as we get the chance to talk to Andre and to Bill and to Chris and all these guys, and maybe to Connor too, depending on whether they make him available. They may or may not. But so far, I have not talked to Connor since he got out. It's a privacy thing mostly, and hoping that he, for his own well-being, that he is doing well before he starts talking to us annoying media people. And yeah, so we'll see what the team says over the next couple of weeks here. As far as the plan, I think that's largely up to Connor Ingram to come in and prove that he can still get the job done. Last year, was kind of a write-off season just because of all the stuff that he was dealing with. So I don't want to say that I don't want to say anything negative about his season last year. But if he's now good to go and has a bad season, that's where you start saying like, okay, like what's going on here? And that has to start in training camp. Like he has to prove it in training camp, make sure that he still has one of those spots. If not, Tucson's open and he has to go through the waiver wire to get there. So, maybe they explore trades first or something like that. They've committed to Vitek Vanacek as well. So I think and he won the Stanley Cup last year as a backup goalie. He's not a nobody. So I think it's really a two-horse race between those two guys. And you never want to carry three goalies on your roster. Like we've seen it in Buffalo, Detroit, Ottawa, like all these teams that have always kind of been that mushy middle kind of thing. Like they've all tried it. None of them have had it work ever. So I don't foresee that happening here. And yeah, I just think that it's up to Connor Ingram to come in and prove that he still belongs in the NHL.
Yeah. I imagine training camp will be enlightening, but and again, I think one point you made that it's something that we all need to keep in the back of our head is there's 32 teams now. I keep on saying this. That means there are 4 goalie positions, starting and backup positions that didn't exist before these 2 teams came into the league. So everybody's goalie pipeline and even startings roster spots are a lot thinner than they used to be. So if a goalie gets injured during training camp, or maybe a younger backup just doesn't look ready, and we need to send Ingram or even Vanacek down to the AHL, there's a good chance that either of them would be claimed, and that kind of solves the problem that we may have otherwise. So
yeah, and And it's also possible that it's a trade rather than a waiver claim, just, because you can kind of control where the guy goes and make sure he gets to a good situation and get an asset back. I was looking at potential landing spots for a goalie, whether it's any of them really. Calgary doesn't really have an NHL backup goalie. Their only goalie that played NHL games last year is Dustin Wolf. They don't have a guy. They don't have a second guy that played NHL games last year. Ivan Prosvidov, Coyotes legend, I think.
Prosvidov.
You know him.
I think he's their backup as it stands right now.
That's right.
But, maybe he's who they go after. Or sorry, maybe one of Utah's goalies would be suited there. Just as a potential spot. I think Columbus also just kind of they traded for who was it? Fedotov, was it? And so and he had a really rough year last year as well. So maybe that's another spot. But like you say, there's always goalies that are underwhelming every single year. So there's a landing spot if they need one.
Another kind of camp storyline is Mr. Logan Cooley, who has not signed a extension. He is an RFA, so he is completely under control by the team. But I think a lot of people were expecting that to have been completed by now. Do you get any sense that these talks may be ending soon or progressing, or are things kind of just on hold and letting the guy cook, if you will?
Again, I think that's something that we'll have a better sense of once we get back into the swing of things and regular conversations with each of these guys. Because we talk to management every now and then throughout the off season, but we don't talk to the players very often at all in the off season. So I haven't actually spoken to Cooley other than a hello in the hallway the other day in months, right? So I don't know where he's at right now. What I do know is that if I were Logan Cooley, I would not sign yet.
I know.
I wrote an article about this. He has nothing to lose right now, aside from a major injury, and he has so much to gain. So as it stands right now, his production is probably in that $9 to $10 million range. But if he goes out there and has a point per game plus season, then that's where you start talking in these 11, 12 kind of deals. This, really top of the line kinds of deals. And so he has a lot to gain. It's not out of the question that he goes out and proves himself like that. But maybe he likes the long-term security and the fact that he could, sign the deal today and get injured tomorrow and still be set for life. Who knows? But don't forget also that they signed Dylan Gunther around this time last year. It was the first week of training camp, and he went out there and outplayed that contract from day one. Like he was just already way above that, and he was on the Athletics list of top 10 team friendly contracts in the league right now. And no player ever wants to be on those lists. And maybe Logan's seeing that and saying, "Hey, give me a second." So I don't blame him, but I think we'll probably have a better sense as we have some of these conversations later on in these couple of weeks that are coming up.
Let's not have those two talking to each other much about finances and contracts. Maybe make sure their agents aren't in touch and let's just
maybe get a buffer to sit between them on the bus or
or maybe
can't talk about that topic.
Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe Gunther's like, "Hey dude, let's work out some kind of side deal here. You sign as much as you possibly can. I'm going to give you the advice on what not to do, and then you just cut me off a little bit every paycheck." So I on a scale of 1 to 10, it's very, very low for me as far as whether Cooley's looking to get out of this franchise. I think he is a very, very competitive guy. He's represented by the same agent that Clayton Keller is. I believe so. The Bartlett brothers, right?
So.
Is that,
Yeah.
So, which is another something that we're gonna have to tackle eventually. There, Keller is going to be one of the top paid players in the Western Conference, at least, coming up here shortly. So, it's something that I'm not really worried about. Of course, the fan of me would love to Would love to see it done already. Like, come on, man, just sign for 7 like Gunther did, but just doesn't make sense. To your point, I mean, he's a guy that, and I'm not saying Gunther's not, but he's a guy that seems very, very comfortable betting on himself, and I think that he is like I said, he's a fiery guy, and he knows what he can do, and so he probably has no hesitation going into this year, knowing that he's a first line player. Because in the beginning of last year, it was Barrett Hayton manning the top line. So I think he knows going into this year he's the number one guy, and he's going to have the entire year, barring an injury, knock on wood, that he is going to put up impressive numbers. I mean, he still missed 10 games last year and was still a 65-point player. So that's something to keep in mind. And
a quick note here as well. Sorry to cut you off.
Right.
A quick note as well is I think that us, as outsiders looking in that don't make tens of millions of dollars, or maybe you guys do off your podcast, I don't know, but I'm not making tens of millions of dollars. It's easy to look at this and say, oh, well, what's the difference in the long run between nine a year and 10 a year? Like, what's the difference? Last year when Logan hit one of his performance bonuses, I think it was the 20 goals, and he gets an automatic $250K bonus for hitting 20 goals on an entry-level deal. When he hit that, I asked him, like, hey, like, were you thinking about this at all? And his eyes lit up. He's like, oh, like, I've got this paycheck coming in now. Like, and he's already making almost $1 million a year, and he has for a couple of years now, and he's hit a bunch of these bonuses, and even then, like, $250K to us, like, in contract negotiations as NHL outsiders, that doesn't seem like that much. But when he realized that's how much money was hitting his account, he was like, whoa, like, yes. So I think it does matter more than we probably think it does.
Oh man. I mean, these guys are, and he's young. Nothing's guaranteed in life, unfortunately. So if someone said, based off of my performance on this podcast, if I just hit every goal, I was getting $250K, I'd be laser focused. I don't care if I was making $10 million a year, which I'm not. But yeah, I think the fans' perspective is so skewed. They're like, oh, come on, what's 1.1 versus 11.2? Well, $100,000. That's what it is. Right. It's like, so it's
per year for 8 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, again, I'm not worried about it. It's definitely something that we want to keep our finger on the pulse with, but I'm happy for him. This is for the first time in a long time, we have an ownership group that is willing to pay these players based off of what they provide the team and the fan base.
Yep. Yeah. And I do think the sooner it happens, at least for us fans and Bill Armstrong, the sooner you can start to kind of plot out how you're going to manage the cap while this team's really highly competitive. And obviously that would be great for Bill to kind of understand that now and start to, go through his charts and whatever he does to kind of figure out cap management, but that's not always the best case for the player. So it should be interesting because, like you mentioned, Caller's going to be coming up too. And, Hayton is going to have a big decision after this season, and what his performance is really going to kind of dictate what type of contract he is given, and all the domino pieces are going to start falling now. The days of not having to think about it much are quickly ending, and a different window is opening. So
no more Marian Hossa contracts or Henrik Zetterberg or all those
Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
we have a hell of
Hall
an
of Fame
alumni
players
team
are
now.
over. So, any other training camp kind of storylines that you're going to have your finger on the pulse for during these next couple weeks?
Let me think. There are. The answer is yes.
Yes.
No, there's lots. I just think the roster battles are the big ones. I really am curious to see what Kyler Yamamoto does this year. I think that he's an NHL caliber player who's unfortunately too small to play in the NHL consistently. But if he were like Lawson Krause's size, he would be a $5 million player. So I don't know. I just think I'll watch him closely for sure. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, it's mostly just kind of those little battles throughout the roster, and
Yep.
maybe a little bit of funneling who goes on what line, that kind of thing. But like I always say, like there's line combinations are always fluid anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is a loaded question to ask you because we know that your brain is scrambled right now, just trying to prepare for tomorrow. And we really do appreciate your boots on the ground coverage as always. You're incredible and really enjoy reading your work on Deseret News. And we're looking forward to more insight from you, man. So I hope hope you get a good night's rest tonight and starting fresh tomorrow, so you can fill our cup.
For sure. Thank you guys for having me on all the time.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Anytime, Brogan. Cool. All right, we'll catch you soon.
Okay.
All right. See ya.
Take care, bud.
All right. Well, as always, it's fantastic to have Brogan Houston on, kind of a regular on the show, and getting some boots on the ground info from him is always appreciated. Again, make sure you're following him on Twitter or X. You can find him Houston_Brogan, and obviously you can find all of his writing on the Deseret News. Make sure you're checking out his articles because you get tons of great insight. And I thought his coverage of the rookie camp was awesome. And don't forget, this was the man who called the Yamamoto making the team last year around training camp time. So he may be able to do some breaking news again on the Clean Hits podcast once training camp gets rolling. I cannot believe it's tomorrow, though.
I know.
Media day is always really fun, seeing all the players back. The jokes start. The T-shirt designs for Clean Hits start to brew around this time. And speaking of, if you want to help support the show, the best way to do that is to grab some Clean Hits merchandise. You can find all of that at shop.cleanhitshockey.com. You can grab the one and only Dylan Gunther Costco card shirt, one of our Club Mammoth shirts, or even, of course, the Sergachev Elite shirt and the Clayton Keller Mr. Versatility shirt, which is one of my favorites in the collection. And obviously we will have some new designs throughout the season. And make sure you're following us on Twitter and Instagram, because we do t-shirt giveaways during game days. So keep your eyes out and peeled for that. I can't wait for that first goal scorer t-shirt giveaway on game one that we're going to be doing. So, well, maybe we'll have a new design for game one to kick off this next season, the first true Utah Mammoth season as well. It's been a fun ride. I mean, we go from new team, the Utah Hockey Club, all that excitement, having one hell of a inaugural season with really exciting prospects developing in front of our eyes, to winning the lotto, drafting fourth overall, finding gold when this team should have been drafting in the teens. And then we have a brand new first official name and logo for the team. So it's almost like a whole new season, and it's like a second inaugural season. I don't know if there's any other sports teams that had something similar happen to them, but
right.
And it's been so going to be interesting. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and it's been so fun just seeing Clean Hits grow to what it's grown into. I mean, it's been such a ride, and we appreciate all of you guys. Like when I first joined the podcast, it was still in its infancy, and now it's like looking back at the year, we've got that picture of Dylan Gunther holding up the Costco shirt, and the fact that was on ESPN, and then the Dan Marr interviews, and there's so many just interviews that we got a chance to do, and the Kessel rings and the McBains, and it's just been such a fun ride so far. And so we've got some serious momentum. Our Discord is an outstanding place to be. If you guys haven't found out or joined our Discord, make sure to do that. Brad, you're gonna have to say it off. It's just Clean Hits Hockey, right? Discord/Clean Hits Hockey. Discord.cleanhitshockey.com will get you access to it. We have a great community there. Yeah, they're yapping all the time. So if you can't get enough of the Utah Mammoth, make sure you're in there.
even if you just want to lurk, back in the Hockey Future Boards days where we all kind of met, there is plenty of lurkers. There's nothing wrong with just lurking and just seeing what everybody's chatting about. But obviously, we love it when you guys all get involved.
Yep.
Prospect thread, game day thread. So if you want to hang out with other Utah Mammoth fans, that is the place to be. It's kind of funny feeling. It's finally feeling like the book of the first season is closed, and we have officially moved into year 2 of this, not only of the podcast but of the team, obviously. And I'm really excited to see what we got going. I think we're going to be trying to do more post game live shows when we can and when schedules permit. Obviously, we'll have more guests throughout the season as well. And coming up later this week, Trent is finally getting to record the last Future Face-Off episode, this time going against blue chip prospects and his Montreal Canadiens, who definitely have one of the most stacked prospect pools in the league.
Yeah, it's a scary one.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see which one can come out on top. If you haven't seen those other 2 episodes, Trent went against the Ottawa Senators and Chicago Blackhawks with some of our friends of the show as well. So if you still need to kill some time before puck drop, those are a great way to do so. And if you find us on YouTube, make sure you give us a subscribe. That really helps us kind of get the word out and keep everything rolling here at Clean Hits. Send us a like, send us a comment, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. We also have some awesome little playlists on the YouTube channel as well. So if you want to quickly find all of our information on the draft or all the interviews we've ever done, those are all categorized together to make things easy for you. But you know what? I did have one other storyline that it dawned on me after we stopped recording with Brogan. And I think JJ Peterka is going to be an interesting one. Where he lands in the roster, who he lines up with. Those, I think a lot of people do have him, Hayton, and Schmaltz penciled together, and Cooley, Gunther, and Keller penciled together, but we don't know if that's going to necessarily be the case. I mean, Schmaltz and Keller have so much chemistry together. Right. Maybe they stick together, and it's Gunther with Peterka, which would kind of a crazy amount of firepower for one line.
Oh my God.
Maybe it is the Keller, Hayton, Schmaltz line still, and then a Peterka, Cooley, Gunther, or is that too much youth? I don't know. It's going to be training camp will kind of give us the insight of who has that chemistry initially.
Yeah, I think I love the idea of a Cooley, Gunther, and Peterka line. I think that Cooley has actually proven himself to be a good two-way center too. So while there's a lot of youth on that line, there is a responsible man down the middle playing the premier position, and that's Cooley. So that'd be really exciting, and I cannot imagine the nightmares that would go through these goaltenders' heads with Gunther on one wing and Peterka on the other. They both have incredible shots. Peterka's got a lot of speed. Gunther, I don't want to call him more of just a north-south player, but that's his strength. He's got I mean, you can see it. He's unstoppable. His shot is unstoppable. So we'll definitely see that on the power play, I imagine, because you want to have as many lethal shooters out there as much as possible. So it will be interesting, and I do think that we do have the luxury of being able to scramble our top 6 players and from a game-to-game basis, or maybe a shift-to-shift basis, depending on the game. So it will be exciting. I don't think we have a true first line or second line. I think we just have 6 really, really, really good players, some elite players that we can just throw in a blender and see what comes out. So it should be fun. Yep, absolutely. Well, train camp starts tomorrow. If you're listening to this, maybe it's starting today. That's right. But man, it's here. It has begun. I can't wait. The season's going to be awesome. I think there's going to be obviously higher expectations, a little bit more pressure, but I just think this is going to be one fun ride all season long. So, cool. Any last words, Kenny? Nope. Just ready for hockey to get going, and I'm about to go create my team on NHL 26 and see how creative I can get. So I'll let you guys know how it goes.
We'll see you at the end of the week after.
Yeah, exactly.
after you've won 3 cups.
Yeah, Mammoth have won 3 cups. That's right. Exactly. I won't have it any other way. Create your own luck.
All right. Well, this is the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast, and we will catch you next time. Adios.